All right, yo, what's up? My name's Patrouski, and we just got some pretty massive update news in PokeMMO regarding incubators, legendary Pokemon, and all sorts of things. Let's go ahead and jump into it. This is through the cycle, through the forum post over on the PokeMMO forums, under the power of community thread. This has been a very controversial, very heated forum thread, but through all the controversy, through all the anger and frustrations, and healthy communication, unhealthy communication, we've gotten results. So honestly, at the end of the day, the most important thing is that we are talking, we are communicating, and trying to keep it as civil as possible. But you know what, it's an MMO, it's online, it's not always going to happen. Let's just try our best though. But this is some really cool news from Q. Cool news and some news I don't agree with. Let's go to talk about it. So Q says, so someone asked, how did temporary incubators come to be? If there's a problem with temporary incubators, are you trying to solve it, and what is it? Why is it that we initially got 7 of them? Is there any meaning behind that amount? Incubators were made to replace the I have to sit here in inventory management instead of playing the game. This is if you don't know, incubators while hatching eggs, and I actually super agree with this. I think permanent incubators being added to the game to allow you to go do other activities while hatching eggs instead of AFKing at your PC is actually really engaging gameplay and warrants the buff that it gave. I think it's a fantastic update. Temporary incubators were added as a way to accelerate for players who wanted more at a time than was previously possible. Prior to that, people would just roll up on multiple devices and egg across multiple accounts. Now, this is where I disagree, which wasn't good gameplay. As a high-level, high-end shunter, and in the highest, considered one of the best shunting teams, Team Mister, I have only seen less than 3 or less people hunt on multiple egging on multiple devices. Usually someone is egging on one device and then catching dittos or money making or doing other things to sustain that hunt. Egging on 2 or 3 accounts at once is ludicrously expensive. An egg hunt already costs 150 to 180 mil Pokeyen per one hunt, right? You can drain millions of Pokeyen per day, and it's really hard to keep up with that, even doing some of the best money making in the game with flips, investments, etc., etc. It's I see very few people. Now maybe Q, he's the dev. Maybe on the back end they were seeing stuff that I'm not seeing. Maybe it's more prevalent in other communities. I am Tizbut, one shunter in the English speaking community. Maybe in maybe the Chinese community, they're really big on multi-egging, and it's so it is a relevant problem worth considering or solving. I get the logic here. I personally haven't seen this, and I don't think this is happening that much. I don't think it checks out, but I could be totally wrong. As well as usually when people are egg hunting, like spending hundreds of millions of Pokeyen and like shunting for a rare, they want it to be their OT. They don't want to get a rare shunt, a rare shiny on an alt account. That's usually pretty undesired in my opinion. And then also to poke one more hole through this, or we'll move on. I know the whole video won't be incubators, but to poke one more hole through the argument, if the argument is, oh, people want to egg on multiple devices, well, they're just going to egg on multiple devices now anyway with the temporary incubators. So okay, so you go from 5 eggs per hatch up to 8 with permanent incubators, and up to 15, but or even anything more than that is in my opinion really crazy. We got over a 60% buff on egg hatching speeds when permanent incubators were added to the game, and temporary incubators would take that up to 300% if they continue to add the 7 more temporary incubators. You would just be hatching 15 eggs per account per so you could do, why would that stop you from the multiple account thing if you're going to do it on by this logic? But the problem is it's really expensive. No, I haven't seen many people at all, 3 or less people egging on multiple devices personally. But let's move on. We also, now this is where it gets, I think this is really a good sign and really interesting. We also wanted something where players could craft temporary incubators with specific attributes to better suit specific types. Grass-focused temporary incubators providing faster hatching, but for only grass Pokemon. It's a little annoying. It's kind of like an annoyance, but it's a balancing thing. That's another thing where I think it's important. It's okay. Unfortunately, it's okay to annoy the player by some instances for better balance. A good example is I think the way that the breeding system works right now in PokeMMO is kind of annoying, right? Consuming your Pokemon is a decent annoyance. But once you learn it, it's really good. It helps the economy, it helps the market, it keeps things consistent for PvP integrity. Everybody can breed 31 timid speed Starmies, for example. It really matters for a lot of that stuff. So once you learn it, it makes a lot more sense. I think this is a very similar kind of situation. There was no particular meaning to there being 7 potentially temporary incubators. For those who don't know, they were going to add an update called temporary incubators. I believe, how long ago was this? A few 3 or 5 months ago at this point, 3 to 6 months ago, and we kind of stopped it. We said, hey, this is a bad update, nobody really wants this. It was a lot of tugging and pulling. A lot of the community, it was kind of 50-50. We ran a poll, it was 50-50 for a while, and I think a lot of the community has now come around to, you know what, I think now I would guesstimate, we ran a poll and it was 50-50 when it was coming out. People nowadays people are like, oh, everybody's against temporary incubators, duh. No, it was 50-50 on release, and now it's probably 90-10. Most people are against them. That's a guesstimation number. number. I haven't ran those numbers, but I'd say most people are against them now. But let's continue reading. There was no particular meaning to 7 and ended up being too many, so we reduced it in the next development build. I doubt we'll reintroduce them into the gift shop. That is a really cool green flag. One of the biggest problems was the like pay to win element and the having to spend that much more Pokeyen, that much more RP on your egg shunts. To the aforementioned crafting system. I like the idea of them expanding the crafting system. How many people even know that there's a crafting system in PokeMMO? Did you know that you can go craft PP Maxes and you can go craft rare candies right now? A lot of people don't even know that. It's a very niche system that really only applies to niche moneymakers and Iron Men. All right, next up. I know there'd be a group of players who would prefer we didn't get all regions, and the current region/game was focused on and improved. While there's a group of players that wouldn't want Gen 6, there's a group that really wants it. So let's say Gen 6 gets added. My question is, when do we stop adding regions? My initial concern is that the demands for regions will just never end, and we'll get a perpetual open alpha. So I'm wondering when enough is enough. Not really concerned to be addressed, but rather a thought to be considered, and I cannot give a definite answer here. Sorry, I think it's pretty interesting. Cannot give a definite answer here. Sorry, super fair. Next up. Really important one, really important. This is a really good one. Do you feel like the economy is in a good place? If this following statement is totally off, you are welcome to correct me. Look at this healthy communication, good qualifications from Alice A. But my impression is you don't want to regulate it too much. I think there is a good majority of players that think alphas in the current state are problematic for the economy. I'm one of those people. I've been actively outspoken against. I think alphas should have been nerfed really last year. Like, I think it's been way too long. They should have been nerfed last year. Some people wanted them nerfed like 2 years ago, and I thought it was a little too soon. But now I'm definitely on the camp. But it took me a while to come around to it. But now that I've seen the effect, I'm definitely on the camp of I think alphas need to be nerfed in some way. Anyways, let's continue. Problematic. I'm wondering what's the deal with that, and or if there is just a lot to the economy that I do not understand. I also think catching for profit is core to the game, and in the current state of the game, it's really hard to justify this activity. Yes, catching for profit is amazing for new players, beginners, even veterans. Like, it's amazing for all types of players, and it's really fallen off due to the low 31 values and the low IV values on a lot of Pokemon right now. Do you feel like dittos and egging are in a good place? I like these questions, just asking like, hey devs, what are your thoughts on the game? We don't care about, you don't have to tell me like when's the next update and when's Gen 6 and blah blah blah, but like, what are your thoughts on these things? Getting their thought process is really important to a guy like me. Box trading has been a highly requested feature for a long time. Yes, it would save them time as well with scam problems. I get is that the impression I get is that ditto catching is an aspect of the game that can and should be improved upon. My understanding that the netball nerf was necessary. Yep, absolutely. The side effect of the ditto catching method being attacked, I felt to not create good effect. This is wrong. So most people don't know, netball wasn't just like the way it was for a long time and then nerfed. Netball was buffed to the state that it was at, and then it had to be basically reverted or like nerfed in a way because it was so busted. So people always bring up the netball nerf, and a lot of people haven't been playing the game long enough to like, they didn't see the buff. So they didn't see the buff. They only started playing since the netball was 3.5 times catch rate, and then they saw the nerf and they're like, what the heck? Why did it get nerfed? Well, it's because it got buffed to be too broken, and they had to re-nerf it. So I think netball is in a really good. People liked the netball ditto strategy. People built teams around them. I get it. I understand, but it was not healthy for the game in a lot of, I would say, objective ways. But you can also feel free to disagree. There's a lot of good arguments for bringing back the netball meta that are there, but I think the positives of the nerf outweigh the negatives in my opinion. Additionally, do you feel like single hunting is in a good place? I feel like the value proposition between premium lures and chumming is very off. This is true, but that's also because I would argue chum buckets are very, very, probably know my position. Chum buckets are very, very, I would say broken. They're very, very strong. Chum buckets doubled the rate of all fishing shunts when they dropped a 100% buff. That's pretty extreme. But I think premium lures are pretty bad. I think they are off. But when you add a busted item, you can't look at the like super bad items and then be like, oh wow, it's not as good as the busted item, therefore we should like buff it up to that. If League of Legends releases a champion and that champion's absolutely busted, you don't go, oh, we should buff all the other champs up to that champ. No. Just nerf the busted champ back down to earth, in my opinion. I also think that in the current metagame, legendary lures are basically a forced opportunity cost compared to expert lures. Legendary lures, I think specifically seem to be, yeah, I think it's fine. I don't mind having things like legendary lures and premium lures. They are super expensive. They are not really worth to use, and I think that's a good thing. I think it was like if you want to have fun, it's kind of like it's not worth to go out and like pay for drinks or like even like go to a restaurant, but we still do it as humans because it's fun. It's a fun night out to go have someone have your service, make you the meal for you. Is it financially and objectively worth it? No, but we still do it for fun. That's the human experience. But Q goes on. These are hard questions to answer with little prep, but I will try my best. The primary concern I usually have is the inflationary rate of gold. I agree. So inflation is the #1 thing to watch in MMOs, and I haven't read this yet. Let me see what he says. It's the #1 thing you want to watch in most economies and MMOs, but I actually don't think that PokeMMO has had an inflation problem in a very, very long time. I always say that PokeMMO is a really weird MMO where it actually suffers more with deflation and the devaluation of goods and the devaluation of Pokemon. The Pokemon going down in price is more of a problem than things going up in price because money is becoming less, what's the word? Money becomes less powerful, right? The spending power is lower. It's not that, it's that items and the goods become cheaper and cheaper and cheaper because there's more gravy mons. Let's say he says, which has been steady for years. Okay, I think that's fair. We generally track that against moderately valuable items like 30 donors. So they track. That's a good one as well. Like RP relations to Pokeyen is a good thing to keep in track of. I do like the idea of them, but I wish, the problem is I doubt they're checking Pokemon, and it's how do you track Pokemon? Do you track like, oh, the 31 attack IV in the monster aid group and then check that every month? I guess that's what you would do. That's probably what they should do, but it's a difficult thing. I get that, but they probably should be doing that in my personal opinion. In MMOs, you generally want to be as hands-off as possible when it comes to economic regulation. I definitely agree with this. We provide tools to make sure the player feels like they're getting a fair price, and we step in if players are doing obnoxious crap, like trying to fish for people who see 4K equal 40K. But in general, online service games, like you provide incentives, but not direction, players will direct the rest themselves. I super agree with this. Alpha inflation is an easy problem to solve. Yes, Q. Slay can get into it, dude. Alpha inflation is an easy problem to solve. You just create a turn-in reward. Example, how we handle prismatic pearls. I would tie that to some type of raid buff after that's more developed. Please, yes, I've been asking for an alpha nerf or consumption, anything to help the alpha economy for so long. This would be amazing. I don't know if at this point this would fully solve the problem, but any step in the right direction. We don't need to make a radical change. You want to make an update, make a change, and then check the economy in 3 to 6 months and like really nurse it and watch it very, very carefully. Catching comments for profit is more difficult to balance since currently you have worthless things which function as loss rolls. But introducing for profit catching there, you minimize or remove any. This is very weirdly worded. By introducing for profit catching, you either minimize or remove any losses from that gameplay loop, which leads to gold inflation. I think it'd be better, in my opinion, if there were some type of low winner, like chucked 50 Bulbasaurs to get a particle. I mean, I'm down. I don't know. This is like not my first thought. My first thought is nerfing the excess amount of IVs being brought into the game to then bring back the value of 1x31s. I don't mind. So like when I used to tell players to go to Route 1 in Kanto and catch Pidgeys, especially male Pidgeys for profit. And you could make 150 to 200k Pokeyen per hour really consistently on average catching Pidgeys on Route 1 or Piddoves or whatever early. Because the flying aid group was a really good aid group, and you could catch males for really cheap, false swipe, Pokeball, super easy, and you make really good Pokeyen. And that was from the good IV Pokemon. To me, it's a little more boring. It was really fun and exciting because it would help you as a new player. Number one, learn price checking, so it's helping you learn systems. Number two, it's also encouraging you to you kind of, yes, you do release a lot of the bad Pidgeys, but you're so excited. It's more exciting to me when you run into a 2x31, you're like, oh my god, yes, Pog. But here, if it becomes brain dead grinding 200 Pidgeys to turn into a particle, just consume them, to me that becomes a lot more grindy than I feel like catching for profit. It's still inherently grindy, but there's more excitement and there's like cool like elements of like fun of like, oh well, 1x31 attack plus adamant nature, yes, like that's so sick. Versus, I don't know, maybe this is fine. I'm interested. I'm just talking out loud here. I'm reacting to this in live time. My thoughts are not the end all be all just because I'm a content creator. I'm just a player like you guys are, right? So I'm interested. I don't mean to talk with too much authority, but I also want to explore ideas and also use my over 10 to 11,000 hours of expertise to hopefully weigh in these opinions in a unique way. Now, some of the other mechanics you mentioned, example, legendary lures, are in the queue to be revisited. That is really interesting news. That is not my task, so I don't have good insight on the full implications. Legendary lures being revisited. Okay, next up. Do you think players basically have encouraged to utilize multiple accounts Do you think players basically being encouraged to utilize multiple accounts is good for the game? My understanding is the economy is very heavy on players having multiple accounts as well. Multiple accounts is always good in MMOs, and I like it. I like this is a totally opinionated thing. Some people really don't like it, and I think that's fair. I really like multi-boxing, shadow boxing, you know, multi-logging. To me, it's always been, if you put in more effort, you get more reward. Now, I will counter my own positives, my own point. The problem in Pokemon is you need multiple devices to do it, and I don't like that one bit. I do not like that to get that benefit in Pokemon, you have to like have enough money to buy an extra laptop or an extra tablet. Not everybody can afford that, and I don't like that being an external barrier to multi-logging. That is a real problem. My controversial opinion is that screencasting makes multiple accounts way too easy. I think it's fair to rule out screencasting. I could be open to that. I kind of agree. There's a guy got 6 Jimmy runs at once. To be fair, you see like, oh my god, that's so, you know. To be fair, Alice, very reasonable. Yeah, it is impressive. If you're able to do 6 Jimmy runs all at once, it's not some like, oh, it's just busted using the screen. No, that guy is fucking gaming. That guy is like locked in Matrix style, keyboard, mouse. Like he is going hard. Like that is difficult to do. It's a high APM. Like I think it's a challenging, interesting thing. My current understanding is that you're not flipping, swiping, or multiple accounts. You're generally poverty. This is the true of every MMO. I wouldn't say poverty. That's kind of too harsh. Like I don't like. This is the case with every single MMO and every single open market to ever exist. If you are not playing on multiple accounts, yes, like you're not doing as well. If you're not flipping, yes, but that's a certain element of. It's tough. You want to balance a game around what is possible at its peak, but alt accounts are tough because what bar do you draw? Do people play infinite alt accounts? Do people do 6 alt accounts? 4? Like how do you draw that? It's really hard to balance around that. Let's see what Q says. So Q not particularly does not like the ability, it seems like. Do you think players basically being encouraged to the game? So Q seems to be at least somewhat not into the idea of alt accounting, which is something I disagree with, but like not. That's a very valid, reasonable. There's no right or wrong. It's just a disagrees very kindly, you know. The mechanics are required for new players to bootstrap themselves. Let me see. The mechanics mentioned Jimmy runs are required for new players to bootstrap themselves. Jimmy runs are your way out of Pallet Town, for lack of a better phrase. When addressing a mechanic like this, the main question on my mind is, can we introduce an effort-based cost, or must it remain time-based? I think Jimmy runs are pretty good right now in terms of effort-based. Gyms exist in a position where you need a minimum amount of effort, but there is no ongoing resource cost aside from time. That is true. There's no resource cost, but there is a lot of. It depends on the Jimmy run you do. You need a minimum amount of effort. It depends on your run. I do a very minimum effort run where I'm spamming through with Typhlosions, but there are many runs that switch around Pokemon, that switch around items. Like I've done the more advanced runs, and I can tell you those are way higher effort for more Pokeyen. I think Jimmy runs are pretty darn balanced right now, where if you do the more advanced strategies, you make more Pokeyen for more effort. And then if you do the brain dead one, you still make really good progress. And I think Jimmy runs are very balanced. I would not want to touch them personally, but alt account or like screencasting, sure. If I wanted to change this, I would like to require some type of gameplay before unlocking Jimmy runs, collecting a certain amount of resources from the world. I mean, I'm okay with that. I'm always down for more. Does that play better? Maybe it's just different. It would just serve as to annoy players. I also like that Q is really questioning himself and open up. The way he's talking is very open to feedback. If people want to play like this, do we actually need to stop them? My biggest concern with this is that beginner money-making methods are really not good right now. It's something I've talked about a ton. Early game is basically skipped over right now. If someone says, hey, I'm a new player, how do I make Pokeyen? My answer is skip, and you can do it very quickly to be fair, but like basically you skip new player. You just do 3 regions. You finish like Unova, Kanto, Hoenn, and then you build the most budget Jimmy run team possible, and then you just skip to mid-game money-making methods. Like early game money is so rough in my opinion. On average, there's always strategies. Don't get me wrong. There's always holes in the market. But with catching for profit being so hurt, new player money makings have been really hindered, and I feel like you just skip a lot of early game money making and go straight to mid game. I made a video making 1 million Pokeyen from scratch in one day on PokeMMO a few years ago, like 3 years ago, and a lot of it was catching for profit. And I don't think that I could recreate that video. People have asked me, you know, I don't think I could. I don't think that I could make 1 million Pokeyen in one day from scratch. And to be fair, the question is, do you need to be able to do that? Like, was that I honestly thought it was healthy because the new players would catch the Pokemon for profit, and then the end game players would buy those Pokemon and breed them up and make even more profit. So it was like a really well balanced, in my opinion, cyclical system. All right, let's go back to, it's not really a goal that all free-to-play metrics over time have been nerfed. Some things like trainer runs have not been changed. I think people go too extreme on this as well. Like, gym reruns were buffed and buffed and buffed every single year. I tell the story of like, oh, in 2020 and like in 2019, gym reruns were like 150k Pokeyen per hour, and then in 2020 they were, you know, 180k, and then slowly 220, and then 240, and then 250, and then 260, and then 300, and then 350, and then 400, and then at some point gym reruns reached like 450k Pokeyen profit per hour, and then they nerfed strings and nerfed them from like 450 all the way from like 150k up to 450k, and they nerfed them down to like, it depends on your run, like 350k or like 3, and like people got really mad because like, oh, you nerfed my run. It's like, well no, they buffed your run for like 5 years and they nerfed it once. You know, a lot of people don't always have, and it's tough. How do you blame those players who literally haven't seen it? They literally have not, you know, they don't have the what are they gonna do, right? Anyways, some things like trainer runs have not been changed in many years. I'd say that alt accounts are a consequence of turn-based gameplay, making it easy to do personally. For sure. I think you definitely see alt accounts in like World of Warcraft from my experience, but not as much as games like RuneScape, as games like PokeMMO. For sure. These like turn-based, tick-based systems definitely get more alt account stuff. And it's interesting. It's good to see. It's interesting that Q is not a huge fan of it. So a lot of big news here, just to kind of recap. Seeming, don't take this as not them promising you. This is not the devs promising they're going to implement a system that helps you consume alphas, but it's what's on their mind. Don't take this communication as promises. Do not, you know, the devs are finally communicating. Let's be charitable and understanding, and it's just really cool to see. A lot of big news. Hopefully you guys, a little bit longer of a video than I wanted, but hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully it went over things decently quickly. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Dislike if not. Subscribe for Pokemon videos every single day. Follow me on Twitch for streams usually Monday through Thursday at 12 p.m. ET, but this week I am off. I'm fully taking a break and preparing for and chilling out for the upcoming Halloween event season. Discord down below if you're interested in that. If you want to go above and beyond for the channel. YouTube memberships, Twitch Primes, Twitch subs, PayPal and Venmo donations. Really keep the lights on and allow me to be here. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. I will see you guys on Halloween. But for now, peace Sereno. Yo, what's up? Outro Patrouski here, and I wanted to take this time to say thank you to everyone who goes above and beyond and supports my channel. Your names are all listed here. You make it possible for me to make helpful and mildly entertaining content for the game that I love and make it available for free for everyone to enjoy. Thank you so much for allowing me to even be here.